Good morning and welcome back to the Grinder. We've got the dolphin with eyebrows is out and he's at the beach as most dolphins do. But we do have a wonderful guest that decided to step in and take care of business when James could not and fell short. This man never does, even though he is weak. His name is Tim the Moab Stout. He is in the building. He's in the house. And what's up, Tim?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm good. So many people don't know this, but you and I are somewhat friends.
Acquaintances.
Acquaintances. We know
Yeah.
each other for a little bit of time now. And we've done a few podcasts together. You've been on this one. I've been on yours. We've been rocking and rolling. And today we're going to focus on real estate, right?
Yep.
Both of us being somewhat professionals and knowing the business. There's a few things that are going on with the real estate market as of right now. And there's a lot of question marks around what's going on. And we're going to see if we can clear some of those up. So to start us out, there's going to be a few different topics that we're going to touch, right? What do you want to focus on first?
I think the biggest topic in real estate right now is the media trying to spin everything like it's going to crash.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We both know the media gets paid for clicks and advertisements. The more drastic and explosive they can make their headlines, the more eyes they get on it, which makes their advertisers happy and makes them more money. If you ever want to learn how to market, you watch the news, because the news is always negative. And I think that's what's going on now. I was talking to one of my agents this morning, and she had sent me a little screen clip of it was some kind of show. I think it was out in Dallas, and they're talking about the real estate market crash, that prices are decreasing all over the nation. And that's what this national TV said. And across the nation, I see prices continue to rise, mm-hmm. or at least stagnate. Like they're not at least changing.
Right.
And it's completely, it's against everything that I'm seeing, and them just trying to get attention and calling it a crash. Well, and it's adjusting, but it's not crashing.
Right. And I think what we're seeing right now is more of a plateau of numbers. Right.
I agree with that.
Yeah. It's something that you're not only seeing in Georgia, but you're seeing it across the board when it comes to the United States. But what you're going to hear is what, again, drives revenue. And that's frenzy, that's panic, that's stress. All of those things drive revenue. And I think a lot of times what, we saw when the time not to mention, which was COVID, during that entire time, what was making the most money?
Scare tactics. Absolutely.
Yes. And so what's going to draw your attention? Exactly that. So where are you seeing your numbers? Like, where are you pulling things from as far as, the numbers, as far as the plateau or still appreciation?
I'm pulling mainly local stats. I work Coweta, Fayette, Troop. I work South Atlanta, all over South Atlanta. And one thing we're seeing, I did a market update this morning, so I'm very familiar in what the numbers are. Mm-hmm. We're seeing our inventory increase, and we're seeing the amount of under contracts decrease, and pretty significantly. Like, we 59 more listings this time now than it was last month, and there's 55 less pending. So that equals about 100 more properties total in the realm. But what we're seeing, as far as there's a slight decrease. I'm talking about like $300 or $400 month over month of sales. Yeah. So that's irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, because smaller houses, bigger houses, that sells. There wasn't a huge increase, but we are still seeing our average list price at $444 to average sales price at $445. So that's still telling me that we're getting over ask, at least by a little, on some of our properties.
Yeah, and we're seeing mostly the same thing. So we've noticed a little bit of a decrease, but also an increase on number wise. as far as sales. And
Yeah.
so that does leave you to believe that there's still multiple offers out there, right?
We're not seeing a dozen, but we're seeing three and four. Absolutely.
And which is kind of changing the game. On as far as focusing on the south side, on the north side, we're still seeing 10 to 12, which is weird.
Yeah.
Occasion, there's certain properties that are just fixed correctly that are going to get the multiple offers, right? But on the other hand of that, if you're just the normal 3-2, there's still buyers out there. They're still trying. There's still demand. That's what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. And I think if the right agent is still getting multiple offers. I still get multiple offers on all of our properties is because we price them to get multiple offers. We market them to get multiple offers. We're just not one of these list it and forget it people.
Yep.
So we're driving that demand, which drives attraction, which drives multiple offers. And the lower price points, I think that'll be the ones where the demand picks up the most because of what's going to happen is as the interest rates increase, affordability decreases. So the people, like our average price point is 444. So let's say the people looking under 400, they are now priced out of the market with the interest rates increase. So what's going to happen is the people that was 400 to 300 are no longer looking, and the people 500 to 400 are now looking at $400,000 properties. And it's going to be we're going to see another stack up of properties because these guys have been looking at $500,000 properties for the last 3 months. They're not going to step back and want to pull the trigger on a $400,000 property. So that's going to allow the inventory to increase. And usually it's about a 6 months. Then people are finally like, what is new becomes normal. And then they're like, okay, it's time to buy.
Yeah.
And then they get back in the market. So I think it's going to slow down before it speeds up.
Yeah, I mean, and that's human nature, right?
100%.
Once things become the norm or they become adjusted to, then at that point in time, you are now focused on what's in front of you. Um, and that's exactly what we've been trying to explain for the past few months. It's like, yeah, there's going to be an adjustment. There's going to be some change, right?
Shift.
Yeah, there's going to be that shift, but it's not going to be an '08. This is not a real estate problem.
No. Well, even
This is
'08 wasn't a real estate problem.
ah,
'08 was a mortgage-backed security problem being
yeah,
sold on the secondary market, which affected everybody going backwards. Because what happened there, it wasn't a real estate. It was affect. Real estate was affected, but it wasn't the cause. The cause was the bank selling bad securities as A+ securities. So when that comes to the market, everybody was losing their properties because people were just letting them go, and
right.
people were buying them 110%, 105%, and it affected things, allowed inventory to increase. So, everything decreases when the amount increases.
Right. So if you were able to breathe on a mirror, you were getting a loan for what you wanted.
And you don't even have to breathe sometimes.
But and that's the concept. So I think it's very important to separate the two thoughts, right? But the normal process of what a normal human's going to do is associate with what's happened in the past, right? If if,
Absolutely.
if the only thing that you know is '08, then how can you see this market shift any differently, right?
Well, 100%. And they've only been like two instances in the last 50 years where housing prices decrease total. Like there's dips, they're always this, but like year over year they decrease. And that was like in the early 80s when interest rates hit like 14, 15, 16%. They've seen a decrease. And then in '08 they saw like a 40% average decrease. But again, that wasn't a real estate, that was an economical crisis, not exactly a real estate crisis. So when people they hear crash, they hear recession. A recession doesn't mean home prices are going to decrease, because there's two things that usually don't change. Home prices normally don't decrease, and rents don't decrease. So people who are not buying now are going to be stuck renting, and the prices are going to continue to increase because they
Right.
increase inflation, but your salary doesn't.
That's right. That's right. And so
That effect.
say that one last thing. What'd you say at the end?
People have to start taking that to effect instead of waiting. It's like you better move.
Yeah. And a lot of what people need to come to grips with is you jumping into a mortgage and purchasing a home. That's going to come out to be, let's just say the average is a $300,000 house at the moment. ballpark numbers here. So don't quote me on this. Ballpark numbers. Let's say you're spending $1,600 a month to get that 3 bedroom, 2 bath. That's a fixed interest rate. That's a fixed payment unless taxes change. Okay. Whereas if you don't do this in the next couple years, what you're going to be looking like in your rental is going to be they've already touched $2,000 a month for a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, depending on location.
Yeah.
So expect that number to increase. So what sounds better at the end of the day? A $1,600 a month payment or a $2,400 month payment for a 1 bedroom, 1 bath versus the 3-2?
And it's what I tell a lot of my buyers is prices rarely, I never say never, prices rarely decrease. So you can buy now at a crappy interest rate and adjust the interest rate when it adjusts. You can't go back 10 years and get the price of a 3-2, but you can wait for the interest rate to decrease to refinance and to re-square up and take care of all that.
That's right. So yeah, you'll be making a higher payment for the foreseeable next few months, but once those or a year maybe, but once those interest rates adjust and come back to what we're seeing now or lower, you have the option to refinance, and that's what a lot of people are not looking at, I believe too.
And interest rates are still historically low.
Yeah,
They've just not been as low as they've been the last 2 years.
yeah, and that's so hard for people to take a grips on because oh, we waited on the market, interest rates came up. Oh, well, we're gonna wait again because there's obviously an issue of someone wanting to wait.
People feel safety in waiting.
Hmm.
But what's going to happen is I had conversations with people a year ago about buying and selling then, and they're like, we're going to wait for the market to dip. And I'm like, okay, great. I've got a lot of experience in the market. I've sold over 3,000 properties. Tell me what you're seeing that I'm not. And of course, they ramble on with stories and feelings. They never talk about the facts. And it's this, and I told them, which got a lot of them off the fence, but the conversation I had a year ago with people in the same situation as you are now telling me they regret not buying and selling then. I said, me and you're going to have the same conversation in a year. I
Hmm.
was like, the best time to buy was yesterday. The second best time to buy is now.
Right, right. Because again, I'm going to take it right back to you're getting in on a fixed payment, right?
Absolutely.
The alternative is you're getting into a rental agreement with whether it's a property or whether it's a single family or an apartment. You're jumping into a rental agreement that is subject to change at the end of the agreement.
Yes. And demand is so high, it's going to change.
Mhm.
Like I've increased my rents. I've got about a 30 unit portfolio now, and my rents have increased pretty steadily in this last couple of years when people leave. Like instead of the rents jumping, 5%, like on a $2,000, instead of it jumping, another $100, we're raising them to $400 or $500 because the demand is there.
Right. But that's it's all because of demand and what's happening, right? Because with appreciation comes a lot of that, right? With appreciation, you have to look at okay, well, the cost of well, let me take it back a little bit. Appreciation and inflation happening at the same time, a mass inflation, it causes the cost of living, right? Not only for the person who is renting that home, but for the person who owns the rental property, right? As the taxes change, who do you think that cost gets passed down to?
Not the landlord.
That's right. And so that you're going to see that commercial, you're going to see that residential. It's going to be across the board. So how do you solve that problem?
What people need to realize too is not only is it great to have a house to keep you're paying a mortgage either way, you're paying yours or you're paying your landlord's, but the one thing people need to focus on is in a high inflammatory market which we're dealing with now, the biggest hedge of inflation is real estate because it is an asset, and when inflation grows so do the assets, but your standard of living doesn't raise, your income doesn't raise, but everything else does. So people need to own at least a property they live in, much less a rental. Rentals are great, but at least their own. So at least that's hedging a little bit of their biggest investment they're probably ever going to make in their life.
That's it. That's it. Because when it comes down to how much money you have in the bank, let's say you have 100 grand in the bank, with inflation, you're looking at 80 grand in the bank. You have
100%.
$100,000 in real estate, you're looking at 110 just based off of, appreciation over a year.
And that's a low estimate.
That's a low estimate.
Yeah.
That's a low estimate.
Last few years. High normally, low last few years.
Yeah. And so that's the whole concept of what we try to pass on. And you and I have had this conversation a few times. And it leads to people being in a constant state of fear. They're hearing this, they're looking at the market, they're seeing prices increase, decrease, or more so just increase.
Mhm.
They're seeing the interest rates increase. So what happens? Like you're like, okay, well, this has got to bust at some point. This is a keyword there, bust at some point, right? And then what is what if I said, hey Tim, this is gonna blow up at some point. This is gonna bust. What do you say?
Okay. I said, okay, I can understand why you feel that way. But here's what I want you to think. If a balloon busts, why does the balloon bust? Too much air. Okay. So if we're going to talk about a housing bubble, what would make a housing bubble bust? Too many houses. We are at a housing deficit. Supply is so low. Like a balloon can't bust without too much air. We don't even have enough houses, much less too many houses. And in 08, we had too many. We were overbuilt.
Yeah.
So we're like, as you stated earlier, we're definitely not going to be dealing with another 08.
Right. And so, which also leads to answering the problem with not having enough homes. Okay. We're starting to see a little bit of an uptick of a housing increase, right? More houses on the market. That does not even compare to the amount of demand that is still needed to reach that demand, right? The supply and demand is not there.
Our supply could literally 5x, 500%, and we'd still be in a seller's market.
Yeah.
Like you 5x it, we're still like, and maybe not 5x, probably 3x now, but still like a normal market for us is probably 750, 800 homes.
Yeah.
So we would have to more than triple for us to be like, okay, we're neutral now. We're in a neutral market,
Yeah.
which in neutral market takes a property 3 to 4 months to sell.
Which is still a fun market because at the end of the day, now you're actually, and we're going to talk about, what kind of market that we're actually going to have to step into and what that's going to mean for agents. But we were having a conversation with a few different builders. They're saying it's going to take almost 8 years to actually meet demand that is needed. For them to build enough homes from foundation up, it would take 8 years to actually meet the demand that is needed currently.
And that is currently, keyword currently, like we're not going in 8 years. How many 10-year-olds are going to be looking at houses? 12-year-olds, 13, 14. These people that are not even taking into consideration are now going to be buying houses.
Yeah.
So the demand is going to continue to change. And some of these old houses are going to be torn down. They're going to be dilapidated. It's an evolution. It's going to be hard to catch up.
Yeah. Yeah. Which leads us to, let's say we do catch enough demand, we do catch enough supply, and things kind of become back to the way that it was, let's say 2000 and let's just go 2016, right? When the market was not a heavy seller's market, not a heavy buyer's market. It was just one of the markets where things were just solid, right? You had a buyer, you had a seller, and then you had to negotiate with the other agent. When you actually had to do some work, right?
I said the same thing. I say it in my meetings. I said what most of my agents are newer agents. I love training new agents. They're skilled, they're hungry, they come in, they work. I said, what we're doing is this market is for the non-skilled agent. I said, this market is for someone who will hustle and open enough doors and can write overpriced offers. That's what this is. The market we're getting into is a skill-based market. And I am super excited to be in a skill-based market because I am a skill-based real estate team leader. I push the basics, the coaching, all of that stuff. So I heard an analogy the other day that we've been digging ditches in the mud for the last 2 or 3, 4 years. It's easy. Everybody wants to do it. There's more real estate agents than there are houses to sell. Yeah. But now we're in the hot Georgia clay. It is not fun. It's hot. The ground doesn't work. It's going to take us 5 times as long to dig the same ditch. People are going to leave. They're going to be, I predict, a mass exodus the next 2 to 3 years in real estate. As far as agents, we'll probably lose half of the agents, which those are the half that are not doing anything anyway.
Right.
But what that's going to do is that's going to free up the people doing onesies and twosies for people like me and you that are running teams, that are creating systems, procedures, creating opportunities for other people. Those are going to be the ones that are going to snag those up.
Yeah, and it's going to take a certain level of mentality, because what people are currently used to, a good agent right now that is currently used to the market, that maybe stepped in, let's just say 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, someone that was new prior to 2020. Okay, that agent was getting the tail end of a really, really nice market.
Yeah.
And so they stepped in, they saw what was happening, they made a move. And then they caught 2020, 2021, and then now the current situation that we're in. So they caught all of that. They made a decent amount of money. Okay. What they were not prepared for is what's coming down the line of, like, hey Tim, you have this house ready for sale, right? I've got my client. There's also 3 other people who want to make an offer. How do I actually have a conversation with you, build rapport with you, and then we are able to negotiate, hey, repairs, home warranties. There's so many things that are going to have to come into play now, to where who's going to win as far as their client's aspect of things is who can actually negotiate and build rapport with other agents.
And who can relay the same information without being offensive. And we talked about it like that. We started training my agents because now negotiating is coming back. So we have started training the level 1 of negotiating, asking for longer due diligence, not doing the appraisal gaps, asking for home warranties, septic letters, well letters. Those type of things are coming back. So that's where we're starting with this. And before long, we'll be negotiating price and closing costs again.
Yep. And so that'll be wild. That'll be wild to see closing costs again. That's something that I'm intrigued on, is how soon does that actually come into play? Because that changes. I think once you start getting, repairs are pretty normal. We were still working with repairs during this time. What I haven't seen in a very long time is that seller's concession, like that closing cost. That's something I have not seen negotiated for years.
We were working them up until this last year. We would do it, but it would be the $300,000 house. We'd ask for 310, ask for 10,000. They'd still get
Playing the game.
Yes, but yeah, as far as true negotiating the closing costs, you're exactly right, and that takes me to the main thing is when we're working with agents, like if you're not selling at least a dozen houses a year, the market is moving too fast for you to truly give your client 100% of you and 100% of great information. So these agents doing 2 or 3 deals a year. Imagine in 6 months from now, if the market continues to soften, somebody who was writing a month ago is going to come in and write an overpriced offer. Mm-hmm. And we're like, you're going to be like, what the hell? Like, why are they 30,000 above everybody else?
Yeah.
But that person will cost their client money because they're not trained, they are not versed, and they are not active into the market.
Yeah. And it's the moment that you start seeing a market change and you have to figure out, okay, there's people out there that, when all of this changed, there were agents out there that jumped on it, and they were just writing ridiculous offers. We're talking 30, 40, $50,000 above. And this is the only way, telling their client that this is the only way to get this under contract, which then moving forward has to change the market to where we are now, to where you're having to make $100,000 above, right, just to get it under contract and then work that number back down. Like, there's so much that was happening where there was agents that were coming in that were just making ridiculous offers, then forced everybody else to start having to come up with a better offer.
And one thing that when we started seeing that, because we really started seeing the same thing, is people come in like $30,000 over, and I start telling all the people working, we work a lot of sellers, so all these agents come in buyers. And I'm like, if you are $3 above ask, you have to show up. with a letter stating you have that much money to come to the table and you're willing to do so.
Period.
Because you'd have so many people writing $30,000 offers and then have an appraisal contingency. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, that's not how this market is working.
Yeah.
A lot of agents got upset, but then those same agents started doing it 6 months later.
Yep.
Because they understood, because we were doing so many volumes, we were able, we understood before they did.
Yeah. You start pushing the market in a certain way.
Yes.
And what was crazy was I was starting to see this as soon as probably 2020 was when what I've noticed is the north side of the market tends to catch things a little bit quicker than the south side.
Absolutely.
And so what I was seeing during like 2020 was that extended, price point, not catching the appraisal contingency out. There's so many things that were happening, and I was like, what is going on? Because when you bring on a listing up there and it was 30, 40, 50, 60 offers on a property. And it was just insane. Absolutely insane. So taking it back, it's gonna be interesting to see where we go for the next few years as far as negotiation wise.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you want to address as far as everything goes?
I think that's the main thing, and the effect it's going to have on the real estate agents. Real
Yeah.
estate agents who don't align themselves with leaders, systems, procedures, and true lead sources will fail in the market that we're coming to.
Yeah. And then make a note there that a solid lead source is not just an internet lead. Understand that there's a massive miscommunication when it comes to the real estate and your real estate market. Most people think that if you have enough money poured into internet leads, that you will become some ultra successful agent, which is possible. But understand that with that, there has got to be a deeper lead source and there's got to be a deeper connection than just turning over internet leads.
I have I've seen a lot of people who built a business on Zillow Premier, and when Zillow switched to Flex, they didn't get the call.
Yeah.
And their business suffered. Like they either crashed, failed, or had to readjust everything.
Yeah.
And it's you can't rely on any one source, period. You have to have multiple sources.
That's right. And so, there's probably more of an in-depth conversation that we should have later on once things kind of come to a better point. But again, to just reiterate what you said a minute ago, it's going to be important to align yourself with solid teams, solid leadership, solid mentorship, moving on. Because if you've been in the business a long time, you understand that shit can get tough and shit can get rough, and it's important to be alongside the people that are going to be able to push you and show you how to get things done. And if you guys are interested and you want to talk to Tim, how do people get a hold of you?
Uh, Social media, that the Tim Stout or tim@timstoutteam.com. I interviewed an agent this morning who's been in the business nearly 20 years. Some of my first deals were with this agent. And so I asked her, I said, why are you talking to a team? If you've had this much experience. And she's like, well, I see things that are changing and I see that you make things easier for your agents. And I'm like, okay, like
Mhm.
I can see that too, but I'm glad people can see it through whatever means she come up to that idea from.
Conclusion, yeah.
Yes.
That's it's gonna get fun, man. It's gonna get fun. Um, but with that whole conversation, I'm gonna make sure that I put all your information down in the bio
Thank you.
there,
Thank you.
so people will be able to go directly to you. I'll put you want your email address in there?
That's fine. Email and like Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff.
Okay, yeah. So I'll drop your information down there. So if you have any more questions for Tim, definitely you'll reach out to him and talk to him about that. Keep in mind that he covers. What are your locations again?
I've got East Tennessee location. We cover from Knoxville into Johnson City, Mountain City, Tennessee. My location that I work in is I'm more south of Atlanta. I'm working, anything from Coweta, Fayette, Fulton's, south, even from I-20 below. We don't go above it too much.
Got it. And you also do a lot of stuff for people looking to get into rental properties and start to learn more about that, right?
Yeah, that's I got a huge passion with investing, and I help a lot of investors and do a lot of education for them, even coach a few investors. So yeah.
Sweet. You know, if you guys are interested and you're looking to get a little bit more information, definitely reach out to Tim. And then obviously, you know me, we cover North and South of Atlanta. Um, and definitely, definitely, there's going to be more of a conversation that we need to have as far as what's coming down the line, how things are looking. But definitely, this is not a time to be worried, nervous. It's more of a time to buckle down and make the decisions that you know you need to make.
I agree with that statement.
So, any agents, let us know. But again, with that being said, we do need to give a quick little shout out to our sponsors, Jocko Fuel and OriginUSA.com. Go check them out. And when you do get to them and you see a nice pair of pants, or maybe you are looking to pick up some energy drinks, you can definitely do that and get to checkout. When you do get to checkout, do not forget to put in this little code to get you 10% off. So it's GRIND 10, grind 10 at checkout. Save yourself some money and get it done. So again, guys, we appreciate you. It's always a pleasure to jump on this, especially with somebody like Tim, not so much James. Um, and you know, be
Or
able to have these kind of cool conversations and actually bring some solid knowledge for you. So again, we appreciate you. Keep spreading the word about us because that's how we grow. And again, grinder out.